Hi learners, our topic is observing correct grammar in making definitions. So this is our fourth lesson for the fourth quarter. This lesson will guide you to observe the correct grammar in writing your definition. And the scope of this lesson permits it to be used in many different learning situations, especially in the new normal education. Furthermore, the language used recognizes the diverse vocabulary of you as learners, and lessons are arranged to follow the standard sequence of this course, especially in observing the correct grammar in making definitions. So after going through this lesson, you are expected to first identify parts of a definition. Second, determine sentence patterns used in writing definitions. Third, spot incorrect grammar in definitions. And lastly, write definitions using the given sentence patterns. Making definitions. Previously, you have learned that definition is a statement of the meaning of a word or word group or a sign or a symbol. However, in technical writing, we use definitions to explain the meaning of the word as it relates to the subject being discussed. The goal of making or writing definitions is to solve problems and confusions among the readers. Providing definitions will enable you, as the writer, and your readers to have a unified understanding of a term. Other than knowing your audience, knowing how to be thorough in providing description and details will help you make useful definitions. Knowing the parts of a definition and correct usage of words will help you write descriptions for your definitions easily. And this lesson will help you in observing the correct grammar in writing helpful definitions. And in making or writing a definition, we should always note that there are parts of a definition. As you can see in our slide, we have the pattern 1, in which we have the term as the first, second is the class, then the third one or the last part of a definition is the differentiating characteristics. But it can also be written as for pattern number 2. Class may come first, followed by the differentiating characteristics, then the last one would be term. So for pattern number 1, as we can see, fact refers to the information that has been objectively verified. So the term that is being defined in this example is fact. Then it belongs to the class the information. And the differentiating characteristics for this definition of fact is has been objectively verified. So for pattern number 2, class came first, wherein the information and it is followed by the differentiating characteristic has been objectively verified, and lastly is the term, which is the fact. So that's how you will be writing a definition following the parts of definition. So let's discuss each part of a definition. The first one is the term. Refers to the word or phrase that is being defined. It may be introduced by articles the, an, and a. Written together with the term is the general class to make an independent clause. So if you use the pattern 1, wherein we have the term first, followed by the class, then lastly is the differentiating characteristics. In writing a definition, the term is the subject of your sentence, and the verb to be used should agree with it. And here are the verbs to be used, or the verb conjugation that you can use when writing a definition. So we have is for singular and are for plural. Refer for plural, refers for singular. Denote for plural, denotes for singular. Describe for plural, describes for singular, is again or is defined as is for singular, are defined as is for plural, and pertain is for plural, pertains to is for singular. So here are the other example for the term. And when writing your definitions, make sure that the verb you will use agrees with the subject of your statement. Always remember that if we use a singular subject or if we have a singular subject, it should take a singular verb also. And if you have a plural subject, it should also take a plural verb. So just like in our example here, for number 1, the article is an, then the subject or the term is abstract, and it is followed by the verb is, which is singular. An abstract is a brief statement of essential information contained within a document or presentation. Same goes with number 2, research questions. This is a plural term. Then it is followed by a plural verb, which is are, questions that you include in the body of your work. And for number 3, and for the article, because it is singular, the term or the subject is singular, which is in text citation, and it is followed by a singular verb, which is refers to a brief form of reference that you include in the body of your work. And there are things to remember. First, be careful with terms that end with s, but are singular in form, like the example below, because not all the subject that ends with s is plural. There are subject or terms that ends with s, but still it is in a singular form. Just like what we have in our example, statistics, that is a singular term. Therefore, we use is as the verb, a form of mathematical analysis that uses quantified models. Same goes with mathematics. Okay, so be careful with these kind of words or terms. And since we have singular term but ends with s, we also have plural text or words that doesn't end with s. And you should also remember this, that there are words that are plural in form but do not end with s. Like the example that we have, the word data. This is actually in plural form, but it doesn't end with s. Therefore, it will take the plural verb, which is are. So data are characteristics or information that are collected through observation. So please take note also for this kind of term. And also, please remember that when a phrase comes between the subject and the verb, remember that the verb still agrees with the subject and not the noun in the phrase following the subject of the sentence. This may occur when you use pattern number 2 in writing your definitions, wherein we have the class as the first part, followed by the differentiating characteristics, and lastly is the term. Just like what we have in our example for number 2, in qualitative research, so this is the praise, followed by the subject, a sample considered to be enlightening because it is unusual, is called critical sample. So as you can see, the verb still agrees with the subject and not with the noun or the praise following the subject. Same also goes with number 1 example. A brief statement of essential information contained within a document or presentation is. Since our subject is brief statement, it is still having is as the verb, called an abstract. So please take note of this and don't forget this thing in defining the terms. And we're done with the first part of definition. Now we have the second, which is class. A general class refers to the class where the term belongs. So when writing your definition, it is necessary to include the general class to which it belongs, if there is any, and through this method, your readers will have a specific idea of the term being defined. Just like what we have in our example for number 1, the term that is being defined is statistics, is a form of mathematical analysis. So it is important that we include the class from where it belongs. That uses quantified models. It adds information regarding the term. That is why it is important for us to always include the class or general class from where our term belongs to. Same goes with number 2. Dependent variable, which is the term, is a variable. This is the class where it belongs. That varies due to the impact of the independent variable. So that's how we will include the class for the write-ups or for the making of our definition. And we have the last part of a definition, which is the differentiating characteristics. To introduce your differentiating characteristics, you should use relative pronouns and a dependent clause. Later on, we will discuss or we will give the example of the relative or relative pronouns that we may use in differentiating characteristics as part of our definition. So in our example, we can see here that the differentiating characteristic is after the relative pronoun that. So that is how we will use the relative pronoun, and this will also serve as the signal in order for us to write the differentiating characteristics. It always comes after the relative pronoun. Same goes with number 2. Research questions are questions that you include in the body of your work. So that's how we can easily add the relative pronoun, and it should always be followed by the differentiating characteristics. And take note, the differentiating characteristics should always be dependent clause, meaning to say it is dependent to the relative pronoun. And as our language focus for this lesson, we have defining relative pronoun. In writing your distinguishing characteristics, it is important to use defining relative pronouns. These relative pronouns will help you in the transition from the independent clause, which is the term and class, to the subordinate clause or the defining relative clause or the distinguishing characteristics. And here we have the list of defining relative pronouns. We have who, that, which, whose, and whom. And in defining relative clauses, it gives essential information about someone or something. For someone, we have who, which, whose, and whom. And for something, we have which and that. So these information are what we need in order to understand what or who is being referred to. A defining relative clause usually comes immediately after the noun it describes. So take a look at the example that we have. The relative pronoun is in boldface, which is the relative pronoun who. And the person or thing being referred to is boxed, which is the or who is the individuals. Okay, as we can see, we have the individuals as the noun being referred to by the relative pronoun who, and has the dependent clause have been invited to participate in a particular study. So that's how we will use the defining relative pronouns in order to complete the parts of definition. We have the term, the class, and the differentiating characteristics. So as I have mentioned earlier, we have who, whose, and whom as to refer for someone, okay? And that we have that and which if we are referring to something. So let's see the difference between the two. We use that to introduce a clause that gives information essential to the meaning of the sentence. Again, the information should be essential to the meaning of the sentence. And we use which to introduce a clause that can be eliminated, meaning to say it can be removed or omitted. The clause introduced by which does not limit the meaning of the sentence. It might lose interesting details they remove, but the meaning of the sentence would not change. And we have an example here for the relative pronoun that. Applied research refers to the study that helps solve practical problems using scientific methods. So this example use that as a relative pronoun since the dependent clause gives more explanation on what kind of study is an applied research, and the clause cannot be eliminated. So this is how we will use that. And we have the example for which. Theoretical framework is the concept underpinning of a research study which may be based on theory or a specific conceptual model. So this example used which since the dependent clause may be eliminated and still the concept with the phrase underpinning of a research study can define the term theoretical framework. So that's how we will use which. And now let's try to answer this activity. All you have to do is choose whether it is that or which. First sentence, crime is any action blank violates criminal laws established by a political authority. Is it that or which? Second sentence, authority refers to power. Blank is attached to a position that others perceived as legitimate. Is it that or which? And lastly, legitimation refers to the ways in blank an institution create acceptance, validity, or commitment from individuals and other institutions. And here are the answers. For number 1, we have that. Number 2, that. And for the last one, number 3, is which. I hope you got it all correct. And for the next one, we have rearrange me. You will arrange the following words inside the box to form a grammatically correct definition for the term inside the circle. So for the first one, we have the term variable, and we have words that refers, you, anything, to, are, measure, to, and trying. The answer is variable refers to anything that you are trying to measure. Next, for rearrange me, we have the term quantitative research. And the words to be arranged are is, strategy, and collection, focuses, quantifying, the, data, of, a, analysis, that, and on. The answer is quantitative research is a strategy that focuses on quantifying the collection and analysis of data. And for the last one, we have identifying errors. And it is obviously here written that the error for this example is letter A, organization refer. Because the term or the subject is in singular form, therefore the verb refer should also be in singular. So it should be refers. Organization refers to a large group of individuals that is formally organized for the purpose of attaining a goal. So that's the answer for this item. And for the last one, personality refers to the consistent pattern of attitudes and beliefs that an individual projects to the social world. And it is obvious that there is no error. That's why the answer is letter E. So that's how our lesson ends. I hope you've learned a lot on how to make a grammatically correct definition. If you have further question, you may ask me personally or you may even send the question in our GC. God bless us all, learners.